Hello there, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of the podcast. So, again, for the last time this week, and ahead of Easter holidays, we've got Harshini Akula on today's episode. So, Harshini, what would you like to talk about today?
So today I'm going to talk about a Financial Times article that I found really interesting. So it
Yep,
talks about how, for the first time in 4 years, British advertisers they've cut their advertising budgets due to
yep,
uncertainty in the business environment. Now I know this sounds like a general business decision, but it's very interesting to see what the analysts have to say about its correlation with the economy. So, first of all, just a bit more about the story. So, Financial Times says that this cut in the advertising budget by these companies is due to multiple things happening in the economy. It's obvious indicators. It's the trade wars that are happening that are just sort of driving up the predicted prices for these goods and other services that these companies have. So that is obviously going to affect the profitability of the company. So they're trying to drive down any other costs that might sort of increase this impact. So
hmm
advertising does fall within one of them. Secondly, for UK companies, they are sort of recovering from the last year's budget decisions of the increased national insurance contributions. And then that is obviously driving up the operative and production costs, because of which the companies might be making these decisions to sort of cut down on this
hmm
advertisement.
yep.
So it's nice to know why this is happening and sort of what are the reasons behind this decision. But why this is sort of interesting again is just how does this decision sort of correlate to being an indicator for the economic progress of the country, right? So I know you've said this a lot in your Watson's Daily Editions. You believe in it very strongly. So it'd be nice to know from you what your opinion on this is.
Well, it's not actually belief, really. I mean, it's quite a common thing. I can't claim to be original on this. It's just that what tends to happen is with advertising spend, it tends to be a leading indicator of the economy. So, um, put very bluntly, when the economy is on the up, um, companies think, right, everything's going well. Consumers, well, lots of people, consumers, companies, etc., are going to want to buy stuff, and we're in a crowded market, so to stand out, we need to advertise, right? So that's when things are on the up. When you believe that the economy is going to get weaker, your company is looking at, okay, where can we cut costs, right? That's
Mhm.
basically, everyone wants to cut costs, and they look at the advertising, the marketing budget, and they think, well, people aren't going to be spending quite as much, and it's actually, that means that what's the point in spending loads of money at a time when people don't want to spend money? So we will rein it in. It's easier to rein it in. And so, generally speaking, the one of the first expenses to be cut is marketing, and one of the first ones to rebound is marketing. So advertising. So that's generally why I say that, and that it after I feel that we've had a period where it has been rebounding, and the problem, but now this is, the upside has been cut because of all the trade, all the new trade policies and tariffs and all that sort of thing, and now the uncertainty. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
No, that's definitely very interesting to know. That's the thing. It's like the correlation between what the businesses like, how the decisions are made, and then how it affects the economy.
hmm
But like then I got to thinking, how would it sort of affect the businesses differently? So is it going to affect some businesses more than the other, the advertising cuts? So does this mean that like small businesses or new businesses that heavily rely on advertising would sort of have to think of other ways, and then what other methods that they would sort of go about, or would this be the same decision for them? And then a second big part of what might be affected is those companies that make their revenues out of advertising. So you've got like Google, you've got Amazon, Alibaba, and so many other platforms that have a huge amount of their revenue from advertising. So what is supposed the overall effect on them as well? But yeah, do you really think there are other types of businesses or other parts of the market that might be affected by this?
Not well. Not. I can't really think of any particularly. I mean, I just think that obviously we've seen a transition from traditional marketing and advertising on billboards, TV, print advertising. You know, it's all gone downhill because it's very inefficient. Because if you have a poster on a billboard next to a roundabout, you know, the bus goes past, you don't know who's going to be on the bus. In fact, all the people on the bus may not be in your target market. Whereas if you have, you know, if you go onto Google or something, now I haven't done this myself, I have to admit, but I believe that what you can do there is you can choose your demographic, you can choose you can choose the age demographic, you know, the location, and all these different things, and maybe even, you know, income levels, maybe, I'm not sure, but you know, all this kind of thing you can choose, and that means that what you do send out is more likely to be seen by your target audience. So I suppose that you know, maybe in this scenario, if you're going to cut your advertising budget, you're probably going to cut back on your traditional stuff, and you're probably and you know, you're going to hang on to your digital stuff, because I think that, you know, over the last few years, especially since Apple introduced these new privacy policies, which was then followed by Android as well, where, you know, there'd been a golden time for social media, where they'd had pretty much taken all the user data and could use it and be very, very specific in who they target. But then the Apple, you know, the privacy stuff came in, and suddenly people were opting out of letting the app track their online activity. That created some problems for a few years, but then AI has since come along, and that is helping now, because although, well, I suppose AI kind of fills in the gaps, or, you know, or guesses or predicts how certain users are going to act, where they're going to be. So again, you know, maybe digital advertising, having had a tough few years, is actually going to get better. And now, if you're going to cut your marketing budget, you're probably going to cut your TV commercials and your you know, your advertising in the newspapers, and try and keep as much as you can on digital.
Yeah. It's definitely these points that got me thinking more about why it was said like to be an indicator of the economy. I was just thinking of more of you know, it could just be generally thought of as a shift in the trend. Like you said, there's just a shift happening from these traditional high cost advertising banners, like you said, the broadcasting on TVs and everything, to just moving on to the cheaper social media campaigns. Like, you know, it could have just been a shift that's been happening for a long period of time, and it wouldn't probably be so much as to affecting the company, because you're talking about the efficiency of using those costs. So putting that sort of money into targeted advertising could probably on social media could probably earn a greater ROI than having these high cost advertisings. And I feel like that could also be a trend that's sort of just happening. And it's really nice to see that social media is being used on that sense of point, because I feel like it is really cost efficient. So it's probably just a more attractive option for these businesses at this point of time, instead of having to take these financial risks with higher. So yeah, I just thought of it like maybe being the new normal, and not as much as just being an indicator of a different type of slowing down of an economy. Maybe just probably things are a bit shaky right now, but I do feel like it is a trend that's sort of coming up, and it's interesting to see how businesses will sort of use the social media going on, and just see how the shift would probably be taken. But yeah, I think even the Financial Times just describes it as a cautious approach that businesses are taking, and just seeing how things go by. But yeah, that's what I found really interesting from this story. But what is your story today?
Okay. Well, I chose. I really like this story. This is the only place so I only saw it in the Telegraph today. I really, surely to goodness, more people will be taking on this story. But this is a story about a OpenAI is thinking about launching a rival to X. And I think this is really interesting because there's a whole kind of, like a competition between Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI, and Elon Musk, founder of X and XAI. And I think that I think this is very interesting, particularly since it was only a week and a half ago when XAI bought X, so bringing it all in house. And now, so I mean, obviously, XAI has Grok, ChatGPT. OpenAI has ChatGPT, but it doesn't have that social platform. And I think that if it did have a social platform, that would be very useful for it because it could help it, train the models and things like that with real time input. And I suggested in there, although this is completely my own opinion, I've not seen it anywhere else. I don't know. Surely people must be thinking about this, but why build a social media platform from the ground up? Why not buy Blue Sky? Because Blue Sky is already established. It's been seen as like the anti-Musk platform, which feeds in very nicely to this whole Altman versus Musk thing. It's established, but it's not huge. But people have heard of it, and so I would have thought that it won't be too expensive for OpenAI to buy it. And if that was the case, rather than building it from the ground up and taking ages to do it, although maybe it could use AI to build it, but I sort of think you might as well start with something that's already got the structure there, and then you can change it a bit. You can alter. You can give it more functionality. I mean, one thing potentially is to perhaps make it more of a discussion type platform. But I mean, what do you think of that?
I think that's a great idea. I definitely see what you mean by buying it up when it is not that expensive and then making something off of it. But the way I've been thinking about it is just trying to understand why Blue Sky would make such a decision. Why OpenAI would make such a decision as to not sort of buying Blue Sky and just having their own platform from the start. So just a few things that I'm thinking of is how their base business values might kind of be different. So when you talk about Blue Sky, like you said, very similar to Twitter, right? The entire platform, it's got the same retweeting, tweeting, and that aspect of it is just very similar. What I understand OpenAI is trying to do is add a little bit of more of the AI image generators, so trying to make the platform a bit very different. But like you said, to address the question of why not just buy Blue Sky, just because the business values in the sense of the trends that they want to use might be a bit different. So Blue Sky, more decentralized platform, they try to give more of the reign to the users and just sort of go on from there. And it's just based on the user interaction interface a lot. With OpenAI, I think it's a bit more of being able to use the data, centralizing it a little bit more to maybe develop a little more of the chat GPT. I mean, as of now, we don't know if they want to put the new social media platform as a part of chat GPT or not, but it's just having that option in terms of what trend they like to use. So I feel like their philosophies really clash there. Secondly, I think OpenAI probably wants to have a little bit more full control, and then having to make a decision with Blue Sky would involve a bit of negotiation about how much are they willing to give away, how much is the other side willing to take. So I feel like that negotiation sort of comes in, and then OpenAI probably wants to keep a little bit more of that control. And then obviously just having to decide how the infrastructure develops and everything that sort of goes on. And then data issues. I feel like with how much of the information does OpenAI want to use from their social media platform to develop ChatGPT. So probably they want to keep it with themselves and not have to share it with Blue Sky. But I just think it's a little bit more about how they want to use that platform to develop their company. And that's probably why. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's a lot of differences, in terms of the philosophies, I think, of both, of chat. I keep saying, I don't know, OpenAI, and
Blue
XAI.
sky.
They have the
Yeah.
XAI and Blue Sky and X and all that. So I think that if there were, I mean, it's possible that there could be some negotiation there, but I kind of feel that. So okay, so this so let's do. So I have I have been on Twitter for a number of years. I used to like Twitter because I used to see it as a very interesting way of seeing when news news broke. Twitter was usually the first, if one of the first, if not the first, to report on it, and it's very interesting and it's very quick. And I used to use it for trends like that. I feel that since it's gone over to becoming X, it's become more. It feels more sensationalist in the way that it talks. In the way that things are expressed, and therefore a bit more trashy, I would say. Now, I think so. That's and then you've got Grok. So it's gone from Twitter to X, and then X then has Grok on top of it. I'm sure Grok is brilliant, but because it's kind of associated with X, I'm like a little bit reticent about using it. Whereas the other way round, you got ChatGPT, and let's say it was Blue Sky. Like, I would be much more inclined to use ChatGPT in a social media platform context, because I've used ChatGPT a lot. See, I haven't used Grok at all, but ChatGPT I've used quite a lot. I think a lot of people have used a lot. So actually, I think I can see that more people would use ChatGPT in a social media context than people would use Grok in a social media context. And so I can just imagine. I think that it could potentially be like could become like a more visual kind of Reddit. You could be working on something on ChatGPT. Maybe you've created an amazing character or something like that, and you can just go, hey everyone, look at that. Look at what I've just created. Right. So anyway, so I think that it could be really interesting. I think it really could be very interesting. But it all depends whether it goes ahead, how they do it, are they going to build it from nothing, etc., etc. So yeah, but yeah, what do you think? Is that completely mad?
Yeah. No, I actually see your vision. I see it. I think it's very creative.
Yeah.
I think people might be listening and taking in some notes, but I definitely see what you mean. I think with social media, like you said, it's just generally about the users, right? You're trying to get in the users. And then again, from the point that you made, it just clicked for me with OpenAI, with ChatGPT. They just have done it before. They have gone out there. They've been a new venture, like a first mover advantage, and they've been able to do it before. And then that's why I feel like they don't feel the need to probably rely on another acquisition to sort of come in and make the move. I feel like they might be a bit more confident to sort of take that first mover advantage. But again, we don't really know. We don't know what comes in the news tomorrow. Like, we
No,
generally
absolutely.
don't know what. Yeah. So I could see why their decisions are as they are, and then just sort of the entire opportunity is just really great. It's really interesting to see what comes out of it, right? Like, it would be a new AI and social media platform user interface. So it's just really nice to see, because people are more comfortable with ChatGPT. So it's just that reliability, that the consumer trust and confidence that'll probably help them build it a lot better, because they're going from ChatGPT to a social media, as opposed to X is sort of already a social media platform, and then now they have got like other AI models sort of coming in. So it's just the switch of it. So many people use ChatGPT now, so you probably feel more comfortable in getting into a social media platform in that manner, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So it's just they have a strong base. It probably is not a big disadvantage to sort of start it at first. But yeah, I really like the story. I feel like there's just so much that can go up from here, and there's really nice things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there we go. I mean, we'll see. It'd be interesting because, you know, I mean, things develop really quickly in this, you know, especially where AI is concerned. I mean, when you think now the stuff you can do on ChatGPT that you couldn't do, you know, a year ago or 6 months ago, a year ago, and it just keeps on getting better. So yeah, so we'll see what happens, but I think that you know, a new platform would be very interesting. And I think, to be honest, we haven't had a new platform really not a proper one really for a while. So this would be quite exciting, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, let's just I think we'll leave it there. But thank you very much indeed, and for your salvo of episodes this week. But thank you very much indeed, and I will we'll see you again very soon. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.